Um, Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mom.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone.
So it's been a while since our last online conversation, and
Mhm.
na-miss na rin namin na magkaroon ng FB Live with Dr. Honey. And we thought that for this week, since it's Holy Week, it's very apt to have the topic of spirituality. And I think, well, you have talked about spirituality in the past, Mom, and you've talked about it in some of your workshops, but it's not the most common topic, I think, that's
Mhm.
usually asked of you. In fact, and here I will plug your book, The Way
Mhm.
Out is In. So in your book, The Way Out is In, Maria Ressa has a foreword there, and she says, well, she shares how Dr. Hani Carandang has a superpower, and that is to heal. And she talks about how you have helped Rappler journalists. But there's this one particular sentence that she says, sabi niya, she also opened up a world for us we seldom explored, spirituality. Yeah, so I'm just glad that we have this time during Holy Week to talk about spirituality. So to start off, my first question is, well, what is your definition of spirituality?
Yes, thank you, Chris. And I'm so glad you quoted Maria Ressa because that was valuable to me. And welcome and thank you to everybody who's with us today, this morning. Yes, not easy to define spirituality, but maybe I'll do it in three ways. First, I think spirituality is the awareness or the belief or that knowing that there is more than what we can know through our five senses. There's more than what we can see and what we can hear, because there is more than what we know with our five senses. No? The other one is it's also very important, is also knowing that that there is someone that is greater, wiser, and higher than I am. And I people may call it, we may call it God, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, but there is someone higher than I am, wiser than I am, and bigger than I am. I think that's very important to realize as human beings, no? Our limitations as human beings, needing to accept that. And there's an interesting thing also, because the word spiritual comes from the word spiritus in Latin, which means breath, which also signifies life. So spirituality, spirit signifies life and our outer, but also specifically our inner life. So I think that's how I would define spirituality in different ways.
Mhm. So it's the inner life, also knowing that there's something beyond. Mhm. How would you say that, would you say that spirituality plays a part, since our topic is on mental health, does it play a part in mental health and your work as a psychotherapist?
Very definitely. In fact, that this topic came from a conference by the Department of Science and Technology, the Philippines, and the question that was really asked was this: does spirituality uh, have a place in psychological interventions? Does spirituality play a role in the psychological healing of people in psychology specifically? So therefore, actually, in mental health. So it's related more to my being a psychologist, how spirituality comes in my being a psychologist. I think that's what where it came from. So maybe should I give, maybe would you like me to give some examples of how spirituality, because I have it is a long journey for me to get into spirituality at my age, because I was trained originally and very well and very rigidly as a behaviorist and experimental in experimental psychology and behaviorism. So when I was originally trained as a scientist, I believed that what we study must be measurable, observable, and measurable. So I did work that way for a long time until I went into clinical psychology, where I found the depth that was lacking in my work as an experimental and behavioral psychologist. And that is the spiritual aspect of of the work that I'm doing, or we are doing, and I'm doing as a psychotherapist, as a psychologist. So it came in as a long journey. I wasn't taught it. I don't think I read it, but I think I looked into myself and I experienced it and felt the lack and felt the connection with my deeper inner part, inner self, and somehow felt that connection with the higher being, which I call God. So, but it came after many years of practice, because I was content with changing the behavior of a person, and that's okay. But now, more than ever, I know that that is not enough. That is not enough. We need to go deeper. We need to connect with the deepest part of that person in order to make a change, a real sustainable change in the person's, not just behavior, in the person's life, in the person's way of looking at things. So I realized that through the journey was not easy, but I did it mindfully by writing a journal, looking at other readings, going into mindfulness training, and looking at the religions and things like that. So it was a long journey to spirituality for me. It wasn't
Mm-mm.
just there. It was there, but I never really saw it.
Mm-mm. It's very interesting rin, ma'am, kasi pag pinapag-usapan ng mental health, no? And I hear this a lot from my clients as well, no? They have a hard time, sometimes they have a hard time communicating and explaining to friends or family who are well-intentioned, and um, but they feel like they're misunderstood. No? It's something kasi that's within. It's not like a medical diagnosis, or it's not like a
Yeah,
bruise that you see physically. So interesting that mental health is something that cannot be seen, and then
yes,
spirituality also is something that's inside us,
inside.
something that's not uh, not only can it be felt through or beyond the five senses, rin, no?
Yes, yes. And that, I think, is one radical truth that I now hold on to. And it helps me very much to do my work, in helping people heal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Actually, you did mention that, and it's in our post, no? Sabi, spirituality is the core of deep and good psychotherapy and effective intervention.
Yes,
Do you
I
feel like, as a psychotherapist, but with if you're not spiritual, or if you don't nurture your spirituality, it would be hard to do our work.
definitely, that's a good point. It is not only going to be hard to do our work, it will be hard to do our work, but it will be almost, for me, impossible to sustain doing good work, good psychotherapy work, without the spirituality, without that inner spirituality. For me, it will not be sustainable. I cannot continue doing it without my spirituality, without tuning into what's inside me, to that core, the deepest core inside me. It's like, almost like there's a river, and under the river is an eternal stream that's there. No, so we connect with the river in a way that's okay, but not so deep. But I think we can also connect with the deeper, underneath the river is an eternal spring. So that's my sort of analogy in how I will connect with that spirituality inside us.
It's a very beautiful image. And I remember nga in a recent workshop that you did about family dynamics, no, you mentioned how personally what sustains you in your long, like many years of work as a
Mhm.
clinical psychologist is both mindfulness and spirituality.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So
That
kahit
that is
na mabigat yung, like, if mabigat yung mga cases and it's something that you absorb during your
Mm-hmm.
work, there's
Mm-mm.
something that sustains you.
Yes. Yes. Both mindfulness and spirituality. I think that spirituality is my faith. I have developed or cultivated a very deep faith in my God, in God. No? And my mindfulness is the practice that somehow brings it out and makes me, allows me, or enables me to be totally present to the person at the moment and totally deeply connected to that person I'm doing psychotherapy with. And I believe that that is when I am able to truly help that person,
Mm, mm,
because it's not
mindfulness.
me giving to that person. Mindfulness, I practice mindfulness every day. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what's going on inside you right now, owning it, and so that you don't project it to the other person. Because maybe for example, I'm very angry with someone, and then I get into a conversation with someone else, and I'm not aware that I have anger inside me. I will not be able. So when I talk to the next person, that anger will come out in another way, in some way, whatever way. And if I'm not aware, I may regret it. Because as I
Mm,
always say, mindfulness practice, you don't react, you respond. I think many people have heard me say this, because when you react, you go from emotion to action. When you respond, emotion, pause, action. So your
mm,
action has a higher quality, a better quality, and you also do not usually regret it. Because when I know many parents can relate to it, when you're very, very angry, or not just parents, but specifically easy to illustrate in parenting, when you're very, very angry, somebody you fought with somebody, or you had a hard time at work, you go home and your child does something, and you pour all that anger into the child, not being aware that the anger is partly coming from you. It's not totally because of the child's behavior. So you say, "But you did that and you're so angry," but a large part of that anger is not because of his behavior, but because it is something you already have in you that is brought out by that behavior. So being aware, you tell yourself, I am angry, I'm gonna deal with it, so that that anger that I will own will not go to the person that I'm disciplining or I'm angry with. I hope that's clears it. That's part of mindful parenting.
mm. Yeah, very interesting. And how you connect mindfulness and spirituality. So you said that mindfulness helps us become more aware. At the same time, parang yung spirituality as a that image of an eternal stream seems to be like a something that gives you strength
Yes.
and
Yes.
sustains you, like you said. Mm-mm. Okay.
Sustains. Yeah, that's the word. That's an important word. Sustains.
Mm-mm. Okay. So pagdating naman sa mga clients, no? So the people that
Mm-mm.
you see. So that's the part of the spirituality, how it plays a part in your role as a psychotherapist. Pero sa
Okay.
mga clients mo, do you believe that um it what how does spirituality play a part in their progress of
Okay.
uh healing, perhaps?
Yeah. And how does it manifest? How is manifested by them? Something like that. How do
Mm.
I? Yeah. How do I see spirituality in them or coming from them? Something like that.
Yes. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think that's a very good example. I have a very well, one example that comes to mind right away is this 56-year-old or 55-year-old woman whom after the session she said something that I can't forget. She said, "Well, I'm alive again. I've resurrected." So that's different from I've changed my behavior. That's different. No, that's more spiritual. I think that's deeper. And I think there are many examples that look at when we look at how even children, no, the spirituality of children, we will be very surprised and humbled by their spirituality, which is also their ability to transcend. Because I think spirituality also helps you to transcend dark, difficult times in our lives, because there's something deeper, higher than us, that even if we feel desperate and helpless, there is someone, something higher, deeper we can go, deepest core, and connect with the highest being. No? So one example that I cannot forget is this 14-year-old girl who was raped by her stepfather, and she had a child. I saw her in a center. And after some therapy, she said, when I get older, paglaki ko, I'm going to be a lawyer so that I can help all the children that are experiencing what I am experiencing now. Para tulungan ko ang mga batang kagaya ko. And then if you remember in Pablo, in Davao, when we went to do psychosocial intervention after Pablo, which was not so recognized as Yolanda, but was really, really deep and disaster, and a big, big disaster, because it destroyed the schools, and the teachers and the children were panicking. There was a boy there. I think he was 10 years old. We do play therapy, remember? So there were toys he was playing, and then we also have art materials. So he got a piece of paper, went into a corner, and started writing quietly, as if wanting to be in solitude. After his writing, so we allowed him. And after he finished writing, he went back to us and I said, so what happened? He said, this is what I want to say. The boy lost his parents, his siblings, and even his grandparents. So in my heart, in our hearts, we were just filled with pity, awa. No, I'm not saying it's a good or bad emotion, but awang-awa kami doon sa bata. Para ano kaya itong batang to? Paano naman kaya ito? And you know what he said, which humbled us? He said, I want to say something. Okay. I'll say it in Tagalog muna siguro, no? Sabi niya, mga mama, papa, mga kapatid ko, pamilya ko, lahat kayo, kung saan man kayo, alam ko na mahal niyo ko at mahal ko rin kayo. For those who are foreigners listening, to my family, parents, siblings, etc., and my family, wherever you are, I know that you love me and I love you too. This little boy knew that love never dies, the way that my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, knows it. No? So that is spirituality. What is that? That's beyond whatever you see or know. That's deeper than anything. And to know that a child knows that love doesn't die. That's humbled us, because hindi dapat ka maawa sa batang to. Dapat matuto ka sa batang to. Sabi ko, hindi ka maawa, matuto ka sa kanya. Magaling siya. Meron siyang tinuturo sa iyo. The boy is teaching me something. I must not pity him. Pity has no place here, because he has transcended it, and he's teaching me that love never dies. No? So I think it's another one. Okay, pumunta sa isip ko eh. Another one is that I read about it, but it's an 8-year-old girl in London. When the London bombing happened, she said to her mom, I pray that the men who did this will find the love in their hearts. So that's so touching. So it's really the spirit. And this is affirmed by Pittsburgh, who worked intensively with abused children. And I cannot forget what he said, which is, I think, very, very important for us to hear. No? He said to the abused children, your body may be harmed, your emotions trampled upon, but your spirit remains untouched. So it is the spirit that we connect with. It is the spirit that we recognize, connect with, celebrate, and bring to life in our process of doing psychotherapy. That's how I believe it. So that's the spiritual part of the healing.
And it's so wonderful to hear examples of spirituality that you see in children, because parang di naman madalas natin maisip na pag spirituality from children, no? But the examples you highlighted really show there's a deep belief, there's hope, there's spirituality, and there's strength from that.
Yes, I was very humbled, and actually also surprised in a way, because I didn't think that the children were, I knew, and I always advocated and said that children are wise, but those examples give it more depth than I probably knew before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not mentioned that much, the spirituality in children, because do you think it's possible that it's because of sometimes we interchange the definition of spirituality and religiosity?
Oh, yeah, that's another question, a big debate. The difference between religiosity and spirituality. No?
Mm,
I'll try to elucidate on that because I think religiosity or religion is also a set of beliefs, a belief system that has certain rules that we follow, certain structure and organization. It's an organized set of beliefs that they're organized system where there are rules and there are uh, things that we follow, rules that we follow, very specific, no? Abstinence and things like that. That's fine. But I think spirituality is broader. You don't have to adhere to a certain religion. You can be a Catholic, a Protestant, a Buddhist, but you can have a deep sense of spirituality. It transcends the rules. And if I may add, I just remember the story of now I'm being more able to understand the story of Jesus because was Jesus rebelled against the rules of the Pharisees and rebelled against the establishment at that time. He was a rebel, no? For example, when Sabbath day you should not do anything, he healed a person during Sabbath day, and they were going to crucify to put him in prison because he was violating the rules. But the point there of the story is that what is more important, the rules, parang the letter, following the rules all the time rigidly, or going beyond it and seeing what is the need of the human being. So he rebelled against the authorities at that time. And I see very clearly how important that is now. No, that it's not just because the law says this, the law doesn't rule, but the law should work for the person and not the person to be under, disempowered by the law. That's what he was also trying to prove.
mm. And it's interesting that you highlighted Jesus being a rebel, no? Kasi
Yeah.
in a lot of a lot of my clients, for example, who are adolescents, they have this conflict with parents who maybe want them to continue the traditional maybe rules or rituals that they have, and
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a big conflict at times between adolescents and their parents. No? And it's interesting how you highlighted na pag spirituality, it goes beyond the rules.
Mm-hmm. Beyond the
Mm,
rules, yes.
mm,
Can be a very good person and not follow certain rules.
mm,
Go beyond the rules and let the rules serve the person and not the person serving the rules. Parang ganon. That's what
mm,
was the story of Jesus as a rebel.
mm. Following that thought, would you say na religiosity, can it like what is the role of religiosity sa process
Oh,
ng
yeah, yeah.
client? Does it help or does it hinder the
Mhm.
process?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, maybe controversial, but I think religion, having a religion can help, but can also hinder the healing process of a client, of a person. It can help because the belief system sustains the person, gives hope to the person, and gives a structure as to how to get help from above, from God. It gives the structure, but in certain occasions, it can hinder the growth and the healing of of a person because, for example, uh, the person rigidly believes that everybody should be uh, not angry. You should not be angry. You should not feel bad towards that person. You should not feel that you want to strangle that person. If that's a no-no, if that it's as considered a sin, then I think it will hinder the true healing of a person because it's human to be angry when there's something that's done that makes you angry. I should human to be sad. And I like to say that again because most of the time in our families, bakit ka malungkot? Wala ka namang dapat, you have everything tapos malungkot ka. Parang you have no right to be sad. Bakit ka malungkot? Bawal ang malungkot dito. Lahat tayo masaya. Which to me is totally untrue and artificial. And we rear children to be inauthentic rather than authentic. When we make bawal certain feelings, instead of validating them, we say they're wrong, then I think we're teaching children to not be truthful to themselves, to be not authentic. Because, for example, the mom came to me, and this is my favorite example, so many people have heard it already. Very, very sad because her daughter of about 10 or 8 by on was so sad. I'm here, my concern is this, my daughter is so sad. Why is she so sad? My heart is breaking because she's so sad. Of course, my compassion went to her, but I said, why, what happened? To make the long story short, her grandmother died, whom she was very close to, and so she's very sad. So I said, oh, that's why she's sad, because her Lola died and she's very close to the Lola. Then she said, but I'm so concerned. Why is she so sad? I'm so concerned about that. I'm very worried about it. So I looked at her, just silently looked at her, and I said, you know what? I'll be more worried if she wasn't sad. So I think she got it.
Mm-mm. Mm. So you're saying na religiosity, well, it can help when it gives the
So,
person hope, but at the
mm-mm.
same time, it can also hinder the process, especially in circumstances where it it disconnects us from our true feelings. Na may mga bawal na
Yeah.
feelings, na not supposed to feel angry, not supposed to feel sad, no? Yung mga
Yeah.
unpleasant feelings that we usually label as negative
Yeah.
feelings.
Angry.
No? Mm-mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm. So
Yeah.
kapag
I like.
may,
Mhm.
yeah, when it hinders us from connecting from those
Yes.
feelings or
Yeah.
acknowledging. Mm-mm,
Right. I like the word you use, connect. It prevents us from connecting with the real feeling of
mm-mm,
the person.
yeah.
And what happens there, to go on, what happens there is the child then learns to suppress those feelings because they're not allowed, and she's not a good child if she expresses them, and so she doesn't express them anymore. But the worst thing that can even happen is that the child will not allow herself anymore by herself to feel her own feelings. And then what can happen further is that she will not be aware of her true feelings anymore.
Mm-mm.
That's
So siya
when
na
you,
mismo yung nagba-block dun sa
yes, nabablock
feelings
na
niya.
niya by
Oo.
herself. So she does not
Mm,
allow herself to feel any feelings. Beyond that, she becomes not aware anymore of her
mm-mm,
feelings. And that's when psychotherapy must come in.
mm-mm. Kaya siguro minsan meron tayong clients na they feel so guilty expressing feelings of anger or sadness, biglang they'll feel guilt right away. Na
Mm.
parang there's something wrong, ganun. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Which is actually well, connected siguro rin with season. I mean, the Lent and
Yes,
Holy Week, no? Diba, it's about repentance, parang trying to repent for all our sins. So what's your take on that?
yeah. I
The
think that especially,
making sacrifices to make up for
yes,
sins.
yes.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I also journeyed very, very long before I got into these thoughts I have now. I think there's nothing wrong with sacrificing. For example, not eating meat to is kind of a purifying process, no? And you're giving up something for something higher, your belief, and I think that's okay. But I also believe that it goes beyond that again. No? Even Pope Francis said something like, even if you don't eat any meat, you but you are not prayerful, that you are not looking deeply inside yourself, that you are not kind, that you are not compassionate. then eat, whether you eat meat or not eat meat is not so as important as being able to be sorry for your sins, for example, repentance and forgiveness. If we can practice more of repentance, forgiveness, uh, what's that, service, I think that will go deeper than just not eating meat on Fridays or things like that. I'm not belittling that because that's a practice that helps a lot more in the well-being of a person. But I think we should also realize that there are certain deeper things that we need to do or not lose. No, we may be so good at fasting and not eating, but we may be unkind to people or shouting at our helpers and have no compassion. So I think we need to see that also as important. No? That part. That part. In fact, I have this thing I heard from a priest. I don't fast from meat or food. I fast from worry so that I can trust.
Mm, mm-mm,
That's another way of
mm,
fasting. I fast from worry so that I can trust totally, trust in God, trust people. So it's
mm-mm,
another way of looking at fasting, at religion, how we practice Lent, the Lent practices during Holy Week. I think that's one way of looking at it also.
mm-mm. So these rituals, these traditions, they play a role, they play a part.
Yes.
But it's good to go even beyond that and have a deeper understanding and to be kind, to remember values like that, being kind,
Right.
understanding, compassion.
Right. Yes.
And
Yes. I think it's a long journey before I got to this point of saying that.
yeah. And you mentioned forgiveness. No? That's also one
Yeah.
thing uh,
Yeah.
that
Tricky.
we usually reflect on. And like for example, in cases of abuse, diba? Like would you say that forgiveness is a crucial part to that? Like should a client be able to forgive, to be able to heal? Kasi parang may mga ganong,
Yeah.
minsan may pressure to
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
forgive na para reconcile na ganon. What would you say?
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Wow, that's a lot. Forgiveness. That's a tricky topic. No? Yeah. It's. I think I'll go to the end of it. The end of it is if I forgive, I can have a better feeling about things. I can be more peaceful. But it's the journey is not that easy. If, for example, somebody did really something wrong, there's injustice done, forgiveness is not easy to come or may not come until that person says, recognizes what he has done and says sorry. I think sometimes we need to hear that. It's very difficult to forgive without hearing that. But there is also a way of forgiving. For example, the person you're forgiving, you have to forgive is already gone. There's situations like that, no? The client's mom who like treated her, abused her, is gone from this world, is passed on, passed away. So how can she be at peace when her anger towards the mom is still there? So I think you can work on that mindfully, looking at how the forgiveness, the act of forgiving can help you as a person, can help you feel lighter, can help you let go. Forgiveness is letting go, no? Letting go of that way that you have been treated, letting go of the anger. It's easier said than done. I know it takes years. Letting go of that anger and finding peace in that situation that it had to happen. Maybe she didn't know any better. Maybe that's her best way of being a parent, thinking that that's how I will be disciplined, I will grow as a better person. Maybe, going through a real process of journeying towards how I can let go of that part of me that is hurting or angry or blocking something in me because I have not let go. So when I'm able to let go, which maybe needs the help of a therapist or maybe needs the help of prayers, needs some kind of help, might be difficult to do it on your own. But if you can let go of that, let go of my regrets, let go of what has happened in the past, and forgive myself. I think that's number one. Forgive myself too, for feeling certain things, etc. And then if I can forgive and let go, it adds so much to my mental well-being, my mental health. I will feel more peaceful, even more alive, and more joyful.
Mm-mm.
Of course, not easy. I'm not saying
Mm-mm.
it's easy, but I think some people can be helped through the journey of forgiving
Mm-mm.
for their own sake, not for the person necessarily, but forgiving for your own sake, so that you will have a better sense of well-being. I think that for me is what it was important.
Mm-mm. Or for yourself so that you're
Mm-hmm.
able to let go. But like what you said, it's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
So mahirap na proseso, hindi dapat minamadali. Hindi
Hindi
lang
dapat
biglaan. Oo.
talaga,
Mm-mm.
tsaka iniintindi kasi there's injustice done. So hard to forgive, no? Because big
Mm-mm.
injustice has been done. Of course, forgiving is different also from forgetting. We don't forget. We can forgive even if we don't forget
Mm-mm.
by embracing our negative feelings, etc. In I'd like to insert here. I don't know how relevant it is. What Thich Nhat Hanh was saying about anger, no, how to deal with your anger. Uh, he he was saying that think of anger as a little baby in the next room crying, very upset, and you, the mother or the father, is in the next room. So what does the parent do when that happens? The parent goes to the child, holds the child, embraces the child, calms the child down, and finds out what's wrong.
Mm-mm.
So, to make it more meaningful, you are both the baby and the mother. The part of you that's angry is the crying baby. The part of you, that mindful part of you that is the parent, can embrace the feeling, accept it, embrace it, deal with it, and pacify the baby and find peace in it so that you are embracing your anger instead of fighting it,
Mm-mm.
embracing it. Because there is a part of you that can nurture, there's a part of you that can become a parent, there's a part of you that can be the one to help your child part, which is angry or hurt. Or I think that's a very good exercise because the metaphor he uses is quite universal.
Mm-mm. And it's a very helpful analogy kasi, 'di ba, usually we come in conflict with ourselves when we feel angry. Parang, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Either that, or parang I
Mm-mm.
get frustrated at myself. But that reminds us that we need to have self-compassion and understand.
Exactly.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. That's it. Right. Right. Exactly.
So if we treat emotions that way, that would be the best way to take care of our emotions.
Our emotions, yes. To
Mm-mm.
accept, embrace, take care of them, take care of your
Mm-mm.
anger, take care of your sadness.
Mm-mm.
There's a part of you that can do that. Just because I believe that maybe this is a bit tangential, Chris, but it gives give it comes to mind how we do our psychosocial intervention for disasters. No, that the resources within. Before I do a intervention, I have a team. I compose a team. And the team has a shared conviction. Before you even do the techniques, the wonderful, fantastic techniques that you have learned how to help people in disaster, how to first aid, whatever, everything you do, all interventions you do, I think must be based on some kind of conviction. And that conviction, before you even go there, that conviction to me is something like this: that every person, young and old, rich and poor, have resources inside them that may have been covered up, but have resources inside them that we can facilitate and help bring out those resources and revitalize or resurrect or bring out the resources that are deep inside the person and therefore empower the person. You don't go there to help them. You go there to bring out what's in them already that has been probably covered by trauma, but the belief and the conviction, the total knowing that there is something in that person, there's a resource. People all have inner resources that we can resurface and revitalize and bring out and manifest. I think that's the first thing we need to do before we go out there and help people who are in disaster, who are disaster survivors or are in trauma and all that. Which what Kritzberg said: your spirit, your body may be harmed, your emotions trampled upon, but your spirit with a capital S remains untouched. So we try to connect with that deep, deep spirit. That's why it's a spiritual process, actually. We connect with the deep spirit there. Try find ways to facilitate it's coming out, it's being manifested, person feeling it again and knowing it. And then that's, I think, a very, very big part of the healing process, the recovery.
I think you just highlighted the spiritual part of it. It's very much connected to our topic.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
having that shared conviction as a team sounds like it's very powerful and it can give hope.
Yes, because you go there as a team with hope. They asked me, one person came to me and said, how can I help this case because it's hopeless? I said, I don't think you can help her because you feel hopeless about it. Because the first thing we gift to a person who is asking for help, who's desperate, is a sense of hope. Not necessarily that things will change, not necessarily that the world will accommodate your needs, but it's a sense of hope that some kind of change will happen. It might be a change in how you see things, might be just a change in your perspective, might be just a change in how you deal with your feelings, but the hope that there will be something that will change. But when we think of change, we always say, oh, my husband has to change. That is the change we want. But if that change will never happen, or should not be the way to look at it, how do you do it inside you? How do you process yourself so that you can also feel the change in you? And in a marital system or family system, a change in you almost always, if not always, results in the change in the other part of the system, in any part of the system.
So you always go back to yourself first.
Yes, always. And I'd like to stress that because in our culture, when you go back to yourself, you are selfish. When you take care of yourself, you are selfish. I'd like to debunk that totally and say that when you take care of yourself, you're doing something good for other people, because then when you take care of yourself, you can sustain taking care of others. And when you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. You think you can, but you are not really helping others. You don't take care of yourself. I don't know, I brought this out, but maybe I'm repeating it, but it came to mind, because it's not easy to have that change of mind in terms of helping yourself in the Filipino context. Parang it's always lazy, always luxury. It's always ikaw dapat wag muna, ikaw dapat ibang tao muna. I'm not saying that totally wrong, but sometimes that's not at all helpful. So I was talking to, excuse me, especially this is true, help everybody else but yourself. Always put yourself last, especially if you're a Filipino mother. You know what I'm saying? Not anymore in your generation, maybe my generation and my mom's generation. I'm glad that you cut the generational pattern. So I asked the Filipino mothers, if when there's chicken for dinner, what part of the chicken do you like? I like the leg. Okay, what part of chicken do you eat? I eat the neck. Oh, you like the leg, but you eat the neck. Why is that so? Because the leg is for my husband, the breast is for my children, the wings are other children. What is left is the neck is for me. It's very, very graphic how you are take the last, but also not just the last, but the least, the worst part is mine. But to me, that gives a very wrong message, not just to yourself, but to your children. So I told them tonight or whenever you have chicken for dinner or lunch, you sit there quietly and say, today, Mama will have the leg. Just say it and see what they will do. What is that? What is the message of that? Number one, I am important. Don't take me for granted. Because it's normal. Human nature, it's normal to take somebody for granted if they're always there. It's sad part. I experienced it myself. If you're always there for people, it's human nature. They don't mean it, but they tend to take you for granted. So that gives a message to the children that I'm your mom, I matter, I'm important. Sometimes I need the best part, and sometimes you have to give to me. I'm not just going to be the one giving to you. And that's what we reverse, because the mothers will always give everything to their children. There's nothing wrong, but please get something for yourself, or please take care of yourself and leave something inside you for yourself, because what is yourself? So you're not, what are you? I remember talking to my kids. I don't know if, yeah, I think you were there already. You were born already, because remember, you're born 10 years after Kuya Rafa. So I was walking down the stairs and I said, children, I'm not just a mother, I'm a person. So that changes everything. And this was validated in the last parenting academy we had in my museum, when one of the lolas who attended asked her apo, what is your take in the talk of the Dr. Hani? This is my take, sabi niya. My mother is a person. Wow, I said, just that. That's okay. That's okay. That's a gem. That's what he said. This 14-year-old boy. Exactly. The take niya is that statement. I was so happy about that.
Very, very interesting na you brought that up now, no? Yung culture of like being selfless, parang andaling isang tabi yung sarili natin. And especially mothers, parang every day is Lent. Parang ganun. And
Sacrifice
it's
everything.
a sacrifice every day. And I think that's something to think about, no? Now that it's Holy Week, especially, and we're focused on like what do we sacrifice, but at the same time, parang how do we make sense and balance that maybe, or reconcile that with also also giving importance to ourselves, and
Yes.
or at least as a mother showing, diba, showing to the whole family that you're important also.
Yes, you are
Na hindi lang
important.
self-sacrifice palagi.
Correct. And you have your own needs that they can help you satisfy too. So it's a two-way thing. It's not just you always satisfying their needs. I think that's so important to keep in mind, um, especially now. It's Lent. It's Holy Week actually. So sacrifice is a big thing, and it's fine. It's fine. It feels good for me to sacrifice not having, let's say, my favorite sugar-free chocolate, which tastes so good. You know, I also sacrifice that. But beyond that, I also need to look deeply into myself and what is the meaning of Holy Week for me? What is the meaning of the season? What is the meaning of if you're a Catholic? What's the meaning of the crucifix and the resurrection, which is the core of the Christian belief? What is the meaning of it in my own life now? The cross, what's my cross? But there is resurrection. I think it's a good thing to think about now.
So, something to really reflect on this week. All right. Well, actually, our time is almost up, Mom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know if you still want to answer this one last question that I asked you before. Um, because we've been talking about spirituality in your work in particular,
Mhm.
pero spirituality, the role of spirituality in your personal life. You want to just
Oh, yeah.
briefly share that
Okay,
before we end?
briefly, briefly.
Mhm.
Okay, briefly. Maybe when I'm asked, how have you sustained yourself or sustained your practice in a good way after 5 decades? That's long. That's so I'm now 80 and I started before even I was 30. So my answer comes out to be always it is my mindfulness practice and my spirituality and faith in God. Those two things sustain me up to now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I deepen as the cases get more, and now I get very difficult cases. I find that I now my point of view is when I have very difficult cases, that's when my spirituality deepens, my faith deepens, and I grow from it.
Mhm.
But in a humble way, because I always actually, I must confess that I pray for my clients, because I say to myself, I surrender my limits and I say, I'm a human being doing this work. I know, with modesty aside, that I do my work very well, but somehow it seems to be not working. Maybe what I'm doing is not enough. I surrender it to you, and please let me know what else I can do. Maybe we bring it to my unconscious, my dream, or my consciousness when I wake up. And it always, always works. The miracle of it is it has never, ever failed. I
Mhm.
don't know why. That's the faith, I think.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think it's beautiful how in talking about spirituality, you also talk about faith and how ang galing lang kasi in spirituality, you talked about connecting to our real selves, but at the same, so it's going inwards, but at the same time, when you talk about faith naman, it goes outwards. Parang
Yeah, that's
both, it goes both deeper inwards, but it also goes outwards and transcends.
transcends. And also, I forgot to say, connects with others.
Mm,
So
mm,
connects with the deeper self, connects with the higher being, and connects with others in an interconnected world. So I think that, thank you for reminding me
mm.
about that. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That's
Are we okay? Thanks,
beautiful.
Chris.
Yes. And thank
Are
you
you?
to everyone who tuned
Thank,
in.
yes.
If you want to share this conversation, it will be posted. The recording will be posted in our Facebook page. So it's
YouTube. How about
accessible
YouTube?
there. We will also try to upload it as soon as possible to YouTube, our YouTube channel as well. We'll announce that when it's uploaded now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
have a meaningful Holy Week. Bye
Until the
bye.
next conversation, Mom.
Yes. Yes, Chris.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.